Select a topic to view. When you have completed all topics, you can take the quiz. Section 1. What is a model? What is a model? First, it is a mathematical abstraction. We tend to use the simplest model we can to account for the data. Here is a diagram of a typical PK model. The movement of drug through the body is usually much more complicated than depicted in the diagram, but even a simple model such as this can mimic the shape of the observed data and allow us to make predictions. Models can be anywhere from purely empirical to purely mechanistic. An empirical model is used just because it fits the data without drawing too many conclusions about the process that the drug undergoes while being absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and eliminated. At the other end of the complexity spectrum, a mechanistic model accounts for many of the processes that the drug is known to undergo. Although Phoenix is primarily used for empirical modeling, it is possible to create more mechanistic models in Phoenix. In this course, however, we will be using entirely empirical models. Because the models we are using are mathematical abstractions, the model in the diagram is translated into a series of differential equations that describe how the amount of drug in each compartment changes over time. Fortunately, Phoenix translates the model diagram into equations for us and carries out the mathematics necessary to solve them. The equations that describe the model need to be converted into model code. In Phoenix, models are expressed in pharmacometrics modeling language, which is like a programming language for models. The code shown here is a representation of the model shown in the diagram. Even if you do not edit the PML, it is useful to know that this is what Phoenix is doing in the background when you fit models. The final part of the model is the parameter values. When fitting a model to data, the parameters are the values that are obtained. They are things like volumes, clearances, and rate constants. Once we know the parameters of the model, we can use it to perform simulations. In the other sections of this lesson, you will learn the theory behind PK modeling so you can be more effective in your modeling efforts. This is the end of the section. Click Next to continue. Select a topic to view. Section 2. Parametrization. Parametrization refers to the type of parameters that are used in the model. Examples include clearance parameters, microparameters, and macroparameters. Let's see how these differ. First, let's consider clearance parameters, which are the most widely used type of parameters. Transport of drug between compartments is defined in terms of clearances. The model pictured is a one-compartment extravascular model with clearance parameters. The parameters in this model are the absorption rate constant, the clearance, and the volume. We suggest using clearance parameters when possible because clearances are physiologically relevant and clearance-based models tend to be more stable. It is also easy to obtain initial estimates by using parameters from NCA. Microparameters are slightly different. All the transport is defined in terms of rate constants instead of clearances. These models are also widely used, particularly for more mechanistic models. In the pictured model, both Ka and Ke are rate constants, and V is the volume. The third kind of parameters are macroparameters. These were the first type of parameters to be used in PK modeling. In macroparameters, the PK curve is given by an equation that is a combination of one or more exponentials. In this example, there are parameters A, alpha, B, and beta. The downside of macroparameters is that they are not directly related to physiology. We can obtain volumes and clearances as secondary parameters, but those are one step removed from the modeling. Macroparameters are not used as often as clearance or microparameters, although you may encounter them while working with historical data. Clearance parameters and microparameters are easily convertible. Let's look at the relationship between these parameters. Click Next to continue. Let's say that we are looking at the transport between two compartments, which we will call Compartment 1 and Compartment 2. The drug can move in both directions, as indicated by the double arrows. The microparameters K12 and K21 describe the forward and reverse transport. Both K12 and K21 are rate constants. The rate of transport is given by K times A, where K is a rate constant, and A is the amount of drug in the originating compartment. For example, for the forward process, the rate of transport from compartment 1 to compartment 2, which we abbreviate rate 12, is given by the rate constant K12 times the amount in the originating compartment, which is A1. Typical units are shown here. The amount is either a mass or a number of moles. The rate constant has units of inverse time, and the resulting rate has units of mass per time, in this case micrograms per hour. The rate of the reverse transport from right to left is given by the rate constant K21 times the amount in A2, which is where the drug originated. Click Next to continue. Next, let's consider clearance parameters. The clearance can be bidirectional. For example, here we have CL2, which describes the transport between compartments 1 and 2 in either direction. To determine a rate, we multiply the clearance by the concentration in the originating compartment. For example, the rate from compartment 1 to compartment 2, going to the right in the diagram, is CL2 times C1. The units on clearance are liters per hour, so the rate is once again micrograms per hour, just as it was in the microparameter model. The reverse rate is given by CL2 multiplied by C2 because the drug originates in the second compartment. Click Next to continue. Because the rate determined from microparameters is the same as the rate from clearances, this leads to the relationship that the rate constant is clearance over volume. Therefore, if we have clearance parameters, we can calculate the micro-rate constants should we need them. Clearances have units of volume per time, and rate constants have units of inverse time. Typical units are shown here. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. First, the rate constant for transport from compartment 1 to compartment 2, abbreviated K12, is given by CL2 divided by V1. And the rate constant for the reverse transport from right to left, K21, is given by CL2 over V2. In both cases, the volume is from the originating compartment. Because of this relationship between clearances and micro-rate constants, clearance models and microconstant models are equivalent and usually give very similar results. Although you can use either type of model, clearance models are more commonly used. Click Next to continue. Which type of parametrization is used in the model shown in the diagram? Which type of parametrization is used in the model shown in the diagram? Let's recap the section. We learned that clearance parameters are most commonly used, that microparameters are often used, but that macroparameters are mostly historical and are not as often used in PK modeling today. We also saw how we can convert between clearance and microparameters using the equations shown here, where the rate constant is given by CL over V. This concludes the section. Click Next to continue. Select a topic to view. When you have completed all topics, you can take the quiz.